Right. What are we doing? Great. So what we'll do is we'll do these bashy things, and then we'll take a little 5-10 minute break, and then we'll do this deadlock stuff. Right, have a flake through that, and we see how we get on, and then we'll have a brief conversation with ca1. Right. So I gave you this stuff. I gave you videos, blah blah blah, and I told you. I gave you these, and I said have a go. I gave you the hints, right? So let's try them. Okay, and I'll step through it as we go through it, and hopefully people will get it. Okay, let's have a look. Right, so I'm going to go here. As I said, on the night, okay, I don't mind if you use Google Cloud Platform or you use a Linux you're happy with in the lab to use on the machines, whatever. However, I'm not responsible for you being able to get a file from Moodle to this environment. You are. So whichever environment you pick, make damn sure you know how to do that, because if you stick your hand up on the line and say I can't get the file across, I can't help you, all right? Or I won't have time to help you. So you've got to make sure whatever you pick, you're comfortable with. Anything I ask you to do will work on any version of Linux, right? So it's up to you. What I'll show you is how to do it here. So if I go here, and I'm going to save the hints one to my downloads. I think I already have it, don't I? We'll call it hints 21. How about that? And the ca1. Okay. And then what you do is you literally go over, click those buttons there, upload, right? Now, when you upload to this environment, it defaults to this directory, your home directory, right? It doesn't default to, for instance, say I'm, what have I got here? We have a lot of stuff. Where are we? Okay, yeah, this one is LRT, OS directory, OS. Okay, make their OS 2021 part-time. How about that? You get your own directory. Okay, and we'll make a directory called bash. Okay, so that's where I am. Oh, I thought I see it into bash. Okay, that's where I am. All right, so what I'm trying to warn you is, if you upload it, and there's different ways of doing this, you can use the editor as well. Whatever you're used to, I'm just showing you one way. If I go upload, it defaults to my home directory. In your case, that will be /home/ whatever your Gmail address thing is, right? I'm just going to do that because I want to show you, if it goes there, how to move it. The issue is, what people forget is, they're in here, and they do this, and they upload it, and then they go, I don't know where it's gone. It's gone to your home directory, right? So I'm going to choose the files. And in your case, this will open up. This is mine's a Mac, right? So yours will open up whatever yours is. And there they are there. And I'm going to go upload, and bang, bang, they'll upload. Okay? Right. But what I'm trying to warn you is, they're not there. Where are they? They are in my home directory. There they are there at the end. See them? So if I want to move those files from my home directory to where I am now, how do I do it? Because you will have to do this if you do this. How do I do this? I could copy it. If I copy it, I'll be left with a copy in my home directory. So move, Andreas, is a better option, yeah? So Andreas has got the best option there. So move, and what was the name of the file? It was, well, first of all, where am I at the moment? I'm in this one. How do I reference the file that's up in my home directory? So I'm going to go move. I can't just put in bash blah blah blah. How do I reference a file that's 2 levels above me? How do I do that in Linux? Oh, script geniuses. So the slash directory is right up the top, okay? That's the root directory. I could give it the full path. I could start using, what's that? Oh, that's a squiggle. Andre has the best. So there's 2 options, right? Well, there's loads of options, but the 2 obvious ones is, do people know what that is? Do you know what that is? It's the squiggle or the tilde. Yeah, it's a tilde, right? But in Linux, it's the shortcut to your home directory. So if I type that, that tilde means go to your home directory and look for that file and move it to here. It just did it, right? And the other one I want is that one, wasn't it? But I don't want to use the tilde. So give me another way of referencing the path where that file is. And sorry, I know I can put in /home/ps blah 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 /that. Give me another one that's used. Someone the full path. Yeah, I could do that, Jamie, but I don't like typing. So Mr. Kowalski had a good. Oh no, Mr. Kowalski was the tilde. Eugene was very close, right? What does, if I put in 2 dots, what does that mean? It means go back up. I need to go back up too, don't I? To get to my home directory. So if I literally do that, it'll work. Right? So I had 2 ways to get there. So be careful. It's not back to root, right? The root directory in Linux is that directory, right? So if I go ls, the root, if I go ls -l, the root directory, I get that, right? Which is the very top of the Linux tree. Don't confuse the root directory with your home directory, right? My home directory, I can get at it loads of different ways. I can go tilde. Oh, jeez, where's tilde gone? Sorry. I lost me tilde. Where is it? How did it go? Sorry. Where's it gone on my keyboard? Oh, there it is, right? I can do that. Whoops. I forgot the -l. That's my home directory, right? I can go ls ... That's also my home directory, right? But don't confuse, that is not your home directory. That's your root directory of the machine, right? It's totally different. So be careful with that. So let's go back to where we were. Where are we? We are here. And now, by the way, if I go ls -lrt, my home directory, I will no longer see those files because I moved them to where I wanted to get to. All right? Any questions on that? So we now have my 2 files. Okay, let's start to play now. All right. So what's that? That queue. What's that? Let's have a look at that file, right? So it's just a very, very simple file, with four fields in it, right? Each line has 4 fields. Well, most lines, there's a couple there, I think, with an extra field. But anyway, it's got 4 fields. And what's each field separated by? A space, right? So that's a delimiter, okay? So let's have a look at let's open up another Yogi Mob. And let's go to OS part-time. Okay, I'm here. I'm going to go and let's have a look at the questions. So there's the questions. So I said, and these are typical of questions you might get asked in a the CA. All right, I said, let's have a look at cut, use cut, head, tail, sort, cat, unique, WC, grep, sed, and tar, right? I said, let's, now you should have all gone and practiced those, right? But I'm going to be nice, and I'm just going to go back and have a quick refresher just to check that you've got the important ones, right? So let's start with, forget said for a moment. I'll never ask you anything in a CA with said, okay? If you watch the video, you'll have heard me say that. But basically, you will, in a CA, you do not need to know said and awk to answer any question, right? You just need to know the command line stuff, not said and awk, right? If you can answer a question in said and awk if you want, and if you get it right, you get all the marks. That's fine. But I'm not insisting people learn said and awk. Some of you may like to because they're very powerful. Some of you may already know how to use them. That's fine. If you, as I say, if you give me back the answer in said or an awk, I'll take it. I am more interested that you can. If you don't know said and awk, you definitely learn how to use these basics ones, right? So let's have a very quick reminder of how these things work, right? So to do it, we'll just create a very simple file. I'm going to call it S, right? You again, in this environment, you use whatever editor works for you. It could be Vi, it could be Emacs, it could be Nano, it could be the thing that's built into it. I don't care, right? You use whatever editor works for you. So I'm going to just put in some names here. I can spell Eugene's name, so I'm going to put in Eugene's name. I'm going to spell Jamie's name, so I'm going to put that in, right? And then I'm going to go and do this. So we now have, what have we got? 4 people's names in multiple times in this file, right? So let's start with an easy one, which is sort. That file, I think you all agree, is not sorted. So we can sort it, can't we? Sort is literally as simple as sort S. And if you don't give it a file name, it'll go to the screen. If I want to send that to a file name, what do I type? Sort S. What do I type? Yeah. S.out, I'll call it, right? And now in my S.out, I have the same output as if I sent it to the screen. Okay, that's sort. That's all sort does. Really, really simple, right? How do I search for a pattern in that file? If I want to search for all the lines in that file that have the word Eugene, how do I do it? No, but at least you answered. So cat will just tell me the contents of the file, right? There's cat, there's the contents. How do I pick out ls? No, ls will think. Find, no, find won't. Find is for finding files. So for instance, I can go find from my home directory all files with the name that start with buff, and it tells me all those files, right? That's fine. Finds files in a directory, in a file system. Okay, that is not find a pattern in a file. Which one of those? Grep. Well done. Okay, so grep. If I go grep Eugene S, there we go. There are four lines in that file with Eugene. Okay. Now, how do I count the number? Wouldn't it list all the files based on the keyword Eugene? No. It'll list all the files that have Eugene in the name of the file. Okay. Sorry, there's probably some way arguments you can give to find, Andreas, that you can go look into files, but by Jesus, it's beyond the scope of this, because find is extremely powerful. But in its in what I gave you there, find will just list the files. I'm interested in the content of the file here, right? I wanted to know how many lines in that file had the word Eugene in it. If I want to count the number of lines in the file S, how do I do it? WC, well done, Joanna. So WC minus what? The number of lines minus L, very good. So if I type WC minus L S, which was my file name, I get 16. If I type WC minus C S, I get 96. What was the minus C option? What's that telling me? The number of what? Characters, all right? If I type WC minus W S, what's that telling me? The number of words, very good. So let's see how awake you've been. I want to know how many lines in the file S have the word Eugene. How do I do it? Any ideas? WC minus L. Okay, extremely close, right? The only thing you've got wrong, if you try that, Johnny, you'll see what you've got wrong. But so you've both done the same problem, right? Think about it. Yes, Jamie, very close, except you're missing something. In order to count, you must first have the content with just Eugene. Well, we know how to get the content. Yeah, we've got grep Eugene S, and we know that will count it. What are we missing in between? Yeah, very good, Andres. How do you pronounce that name? Sorry, Andres, is it?
Yeah, it's good. Andres is good.
Thanks. Okay. So yes, so we move. It flows from the left, right? And well done. It's pipe. Okay. So what we're basically saying is, grep Eugene S. We know that gives us that output. Okay. What we then say is, I want you to pipe the output of that process. Remember, we did this the last time. I want to pipe the output of that process into this process, which is count the number of lines. And if we do that, we get our 4. All right. There's another way we can do this, which is if we don't like pipe, or we can't get to grips with pipe, we can go grep Eugene S, and we put that in a different file called SS in my case. And then we literally do WC minus L SS. Oh, sorry, WC minus L even. And we get 4. Okay? You can do it that way as well. In the CA, if I don't ask you to do it in one line, right? If I don't explicitly say do this in one line, it means you can do it in as many lines as you want, right? If I say do it in one line, then you're probably getting into having to use pipes. But there is another way to sort of cheat and do those two things on one line. Do you remember how to do that? So if we go grep Eugene S and WC minus L. Sorry, I need to put the SS in. So I can do something to make those two things work on the same line. Yeah, I can do this and, right, which means do this in its entirety and then do this. And the other way of doing it, if you're familiar with any programming languages, usually the last character in the line is the semicolon. That works for command lines as well. So if I do that, I get the same thing. Or if I do this, oops, wrong one, I get the same thing. Okay? So you can cheat if I say do it on one line, even if you don't like pipes, but you'll still need to know how it works. Okay, so that's how we grep, how we count, how we search for things in a file. What else have we got we need to have a peep at? Oh yeah, head and tail. Head and tail, really simple how to use it. So we have a file called S, we all agree, yeah? So that's what S looks like. If I want to see the first 4 lines, it's literally head -4. Okay, if I want to see the last 3 lines, it's tail -3. Dead simple, okay? You can go, there's loads of options you can give all these things, right? If you do a man tail, you'll get all this crap, right? Blah, 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 loads of stuff. Just one thing before we left grep. Grep has a nice little option, which is, so I said to you, count the number of lines that had Eugene. Well, turns out, if I put in -C there, it counts them for me. So there's actually 2 ways of doing it using grep. You can either do a standard grep and pipe it through WC -L, or you can use grep -C. There's a couple of other nice things you can do with grep. One of them is, if I want to see all the lines that don't have a certain word, right? And you're probably wondering, why are we doing all this crap, right? Why you're doing all this crap is because if you're doing anything with log files or processing log files, these tools are invaluable for trying to suck out information out of those files. Those files could be megs and megs and megs long, and you're trying to grab certain information. And I'll explain it a little bit more in a second, right? There's another one which is very handy, as I said. Give me all the log files that don't have Eugene, and -V option, if you look it up, inverts the search, right? So in this case, I will get every line that doesn't have Eugene. Okay? And if I want to count it, stick it in a -C as well, and I get 12. All right? So that's grep. Sorry. What else are we looking at here before we actually do the questions? Whoops. Cat. Head, tail, cut we'll do in a second. Sort we did. Cat we know. Unique we'll do now in a minute. WC and grep we did. Said we're not going to do, and tar we'll leave that to last. All right. So what I got? Cut and unique. Okay. So we have this file called S. And at the moment, that's whatever. I don't know what it is. 12 lines long. What does -V out of curiosity? No idea, Jamie. It's don't blame me for the people who wrote what the options stand for. No idea. But it basically inverts what you're looking for. So if you do a man grep and look up -V, maybe there's a clue, but I don't think so. They probably ran out of. Well, -I is different. -I is ignore case, as far as I remember. So that's probably why they had to come up with something else. All right. So, no problem. So, at the moment, this has 12 lines. Imagine this was a log file that had 3,000 lines, and it had loads of names like that in it, and there's loads of duplicates, and all you're interested in is how many different people are mentioned in this file. You know, how are we going to find that out quickly? Now, you could probably, but don't ask me why it's V. So you could probably find that out if you wrote a little program to do it in Python or whatever takes your fancy, Java, whatever, okay? But you can do it in command line in about, I guarantee you I can do it in command line quicker than you write a program to do it. So imagine this is a massive file and we want that information. We want to know how many unique names are in that file. And we have this nice tool called unique, right? So if I type unique S, what does actually, let's have a peek at unique. Filter JSON matching lines from the input or standard input. Okay, that's just basic. So just report or omit repeated lines. See that? That's exactly what we want. We just want to know what unique names are in that file. So let's try it. Unique S, right? The output will go to the screen. Well, that didn't seem to do much, did it? It basically gave us the exact same output. So the clue, there's a word on this line that is extremely important. Which word is it? So if I asked you to write a program to do this, and you did it in whatever, doesn't matter, you'd have to adjacent, yeah. So Chronoslav's awake, right? Adjacent is the important word. And what that means is, if you think about it, right? If you were trying to filter out ones that are the same, wouldn't it be really nice if they were all pre-sorted? Because all you would basically have to do is was this the same as the last one? Get rid of it, get rid of it, get rid of it. Whereas if they're all over the place, if it's not sorted, you'd actually have to have an array where you kept all the ones that were already there, and you'd have to compare the new one with each one of those to see has it already there. It would take much longer. So if we sort it before we unique it, then unique will work perfectly. So let's try that, right? So if we sort S and we want to unique it, what do I need in between here? Do I need a pipe? Do I need an arrow? Do I need two arrows? What do I need? Okay, so we're into a few different answers. Somebody said pipe, somebody said two ands. So two ands, Jamie, will only work. Two ands essentially means instead of doing it on two lines, do it on one line. That's all it means, right? So it's not going to help us here. We want to sort S, which is got 12 lines, and what we're looking for is we want to send all that into the unique process, which will then work. So the output of the sort, we pipe it through unique, right? And we get the 4. Now, I know what you were getting at, right? What you could do is this. You could go, I'm going to put that into, and I could do this, and I could do this, and that will get me the same result. Okay? It's just not as proper. It's not as pretty. It's not as elegant, right? This is better. The other problem with this is it creates all these files. It creates these files that you would then have to go in and clean up. Whereas this doesn't create any temporary files, right? It just basically does it all in one line, process flowing to another process. This is much more elegant, right? But will work. I'll take, if you do either on the day, you'll get the marks, right? So, but actually, I didn't want to know the names. I wanted to just have a count. I wanted to know how many, the question was, tell me how many unique names there were. So actually we didn't quite do it right. What are we missing here after this? Okay, minus C. I don't think that's right. I think that's basically saying there are 4 Eugenes, 4 Jamies, 4 Pierces, and 4 Toms. Okay? Yeah. Iona, if I have that right, wrong, apologies, has it right. We need WC. Okay? So if we go WC minus L, what do we need here? What do we need there? Pipe. Very good. There's our 4, right? Eugene, you're obsessed with ands, right? So we can do it with and as well. So if I do this, in other words, I've created yet another temporary file. I get 4, right? But that is not very elegant, right? Again, you get the marks, but it's not elegant because I've now created 2 files that technically I would need to clean up, right? So really, if I did that, if I was a good admin, I should also do this. And then I've cleaned up after myself and I get the answer, right? Hopefully you see that. So I'd rather you learned how to do it with the pipes, but if you can't get your head around the pipes and you can only get your head around doing it in separate steps, that's fine. Use the and to separate the steps or semicolon to separate steps, and that'll work fine as well. Okay. But people will probably look at it and go, what are you doing? But that's fine. It works. So that was unique, right? So that leaves us with, I'm saving the best to last, leaves us with our friend cut, right? Because cut is really nice and really powerful. Cut, let's have a look at that file S again, right? So you see there. So let's say I change this. And I add in a few extra goodies. Seems to be going very slow. Sorry, bear with me for a minute. Not sure what's going on there. Yeah, okay. So what I've done is I've created a little comma separated file, right? And why is this important? Well, because I'm going to add a few more. I'm going to add 5, 6, 7, Mac, 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 and for Tom, we'll give Tom a different name. How about that? And for Tom, we will give him Tom Jones. How about that? Okay, so I'm gonna just be lazy here for a minute. Here's the other Tom. Okay. Bear with me for a second. And for Jamie, let's go 5, 6, 7. Jamie Redknapp. What a muppet. Hope no one's related. And for Eugene, how about we give Eugene his real name, which was Gallagher. Forgive me if I spell it wrong, Eugene. Okay, so got them all, have we? No, there was 4 Eugenes, wasn't there a ton? No. Here's Eugene. How many lines have I got? Sorry. Did I delete a line by accident? Okay. Anyway, doesn't matter, right? So, this is more interesting, right? So this is, say this was a massive comma separated export from an Excel or from a database, right? And it had all these entries in there, you know, and each one of these, well, it could have been someone's address, phone number, whatever, blah, 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 right? But all we're interested in is we want to know how many, the exact same question we had the last time, right? How many different people are in this file, okay? For instance, this could be a Moodle export of all your logins, yeah? And everything you did. And all I want to know is how many of the whatever's in the class are actually doing anything, right? So watch. So in the same way before, as we were able to rip it out with just sort and unique, what we're going to do this time is we're going to just rip out the 4th field and the 8th field, right? Because all we're interested in is the name and the surname. So let's try that. So let's save that file. Why is this thing going so slow? Okay, so I have saved, there it is there, right? So how do we do it with cut? Well, cut is nice and powerful. It allows us to rip out fields. Okay, so which fields are we looking for? Which ones? Which one? The third, the fourth, the fifth, which one? We're looking for the fourth and the eighth. Very good. And what's the delimiter in this case? It's the comma, okay? Now, just as a matter of interest, if you look at the file I gave you, what's the delimiter? Space, okay? So you have to be careful. It's not always going to be comma. It could be space, it could be colon, it could be semicolon, it could be forward slash, backslash, it could be anything, right? It could be a capital letter, anything, doesn't matter. Right, so let's try this. I want the fourth and the eighth field. So cut minus D, what did we say the delimiter was? Comma. Always put it in a single quote, right? Or a double quote. Because if it's a space, you can't just put in space because the command line will just see that as a space. You've got to, if it was space, you would do that. So in this case, it's a comma, right? What was the fields we wanted? We wanted 4 and we wanted 8, wasn't it? And the input file was S. So let's try that. Oh, that looks nice. Hold on, I just need to turn on the light in my room. Hang on a second. Now I'll be able to find the keyboard. Okay, so that allowed us to rip out the fields, right? And same thing, we're interested in how many unique ones are there. So if we want to unique it, what do we need to do first? Can I use the -V here to reverse the command? Reverse what? I've just done a cut. Sorry, apologies, I don't understand. As in the display. To reverse. Oh, sorry, all without 4 and 8. No, I don't think so. Maybe you can, I've never tried that. If you do man cut, maybe you can figure that out. Okay, maybe you can. That's possible too. Or if you want, you could just obviously cut. I could do this 1 to 3 and 5 to 7. I could do that and I get all those, right? There's loads of ways of doing it. There may be an option to reverse it, I'm not sure. Okay, but if I want that and I want to unique it, what do I need to do to it first? Sort it, okay? So if I go that, sort, what do I need to put here? Pipe, very good. And then I'm going to pipe that through unique. There I get the 4 ones. And I go WC minus L. And I get those. I get 4, right? What would you do if I said, actually, I only want to do it for the last, I know that there were only 3 entries in the log file today. So I actually only want to do this on processing on the last 3 lines of the file. How would I do that? Tail 3, well, -3. Where will I put the tail -3? Before the WC. No, because at that stage it has been unique. So I don't want that. After the cut will do fine. Or I could do it actually before the cut, but I'll do it here. So tail -3. And I get 3. There were actually 3 unique entries in the last 3 lines. We can check that. Yeah, it was Tom Jones, Eugene, and Jamie. Okay, so just look closely there. There are 1, 2, 3, 4 pipes going on. And if I said, actually, I want that in a new file, I want that answer in a new file, what will I do there? I will use a single arrow and put it in my file, which is QQ and then so now I've gone 4 pipes and an arrow, right? But I have gone from, just bear this in mind for a minute, I've got something that may have been absolutely enormous, right? Millions of lines long. And I just want to know how many unique entries are in there, and bang, it's that quick, right? If you try to write a program to do that, it'll take you a lot longer. So there's one other thing we want to mention about cut, and that is, one of the things you were supposed to look at was, do you remember this? Or did you look at this? DF is just display file systems, all right? So there's another nice feature you can do with cut, because a lot of the time, like, what's the delimiter in that output? Do you know what the delimiter is in that output? No. So say I wanted to just get the file system field, the use field, and the mounted on field in my report. That's all I wanted. What's the space? Well, no, there's more than one space there. There's more than one tab between that and that. There is no delimiter, right? A lot of outputs from a Linux command line are actually just spaced and they're ordered by column, right? So in other words, they're padded out so that they fit under each other, right? So there's no tabs there. If you look at, remember, watch this. I'll just put that in a file called R. Look at this, OD minus A R. See all the spaces? See them all? It's just spaced out, right? So you can't use space as a delimiter because it'll just look for one space. So like that would be, in that case, that would be the first field, and then that would actually be the second field, all right? So you can't use space as a delimiter. So let's go back and do it again. Cut has a really nice feature. You don't have to use delimits. You don't have to use delimiters and fields. You can actually just rip out certain columns, all right? So let's have a peep at this. Say I am interested, as I said, in the first field there, and I'm interested from there over, and I'm interested in whatever is up until this point, right? I don't care about the numbers, I just want to know the percentage. So how do we do that? Okay, well, it's quite simple. We've got df, I'm going to pipe that output into cut minus C for column. I happen to know that it's 1, 2, I think it's 34. That gets the first one, right, that I'm interested in. And I think the second one, comma, I think it's 64. Let's go as far as 80. And that's what I wanted, yeah? However, I didn't get all of that last one because I'm not sure how many characters are to the right. So I can actually do this, which means everything after 64. And that's what I got that, all right? Which is, I just got rid of all the crap. That's all I was interested in. But now say that my boss says, well, you know, there's 15 file systems on this thing. All I'm interested in is how much you are taking up of the system. So I want a report that basically tells me what the home directory is using. And actually, I like the first line. So I'd like the report to also say the first line. So I'd like a little file that had the first line and that line. So how will we get the first line of that? How do we get the first line? How do you get the first line of a file? Using what we've done already. How do you rip out the first line of a file? With head. Very good. So how do I, that'll give me the output I want. So how do I get the first line of that? No, cut, be careful using cut, cuts verticals, right? It cuts like columns out of a file, yeah? How do I get the, well, we know how to use head, right? But how do I get that to feed into head minus, that's it, pipe head minus 1. Very good. And that gives me, right? So let's shove that in a file called output, right? So I've got the first line of my report. Now, how do I get that line? Let's see who's awake. If I told you your life depended on it, how would you get that line out of the output? You know that there's a line in there. Now, head -5 will give me the first 5. I don't want lines. I only want line 1 and 5. I don't know whether /home is going to be the 5th line, right? It could be the 25th line. I don't want the ones in between. How do I get the line that contains the word home? There's a clue. Yeah, grep, exactly, right? If I did this and I go grep home, will that work? Well, let's see if it gets the line. Before we put it in the file, let's see if it got me the line. Yeah, it did. Gets the line I want. So now let's put it in the file. Will that work? Will that do it for me? Remember what I want my output to be. I want it to be the first line. No, why won't? Why won't it? Yeah, so what do I need to do? Yeah, I need to append 2 arrows. Okay. And now let's have a look. Nice. That's what I wanted. Okay, now the boss is happy. Except the boss isn't happy because the boss is an absolute pain in the neck, right? And the boss said, listen, you're supposed to be good at this. I want you to prove to me you can do this in 1 line. How do I do it in 1 line? How do I do all that in 1 line? Yeah, exactly. It's that simple, right? So that's the first part. I'm going to be lazy. I'm going to copy it, right? The second, here's the first part. Semicolon. Bang in the second part. Job done. Okay? Seems gobbledygook. But I'll tell you, if you can follow that line and know what we just did, you'll have learned a lot more than you knew an hour ago. Okay? So hopefully some of you are getting it. So let's go and have a look at our questions. So we'll have a quick look at these and then we'll take a break. All right? So let's have a look. Create a new file with just the first and the fourth column. Okay, so the column's bad. That's a bad word. I shouldn't have used column here, right? Because technically, if you just gave me the column output, I would have to take it. I should have said field. Okay? So, what does what's it look like? We want the first and the fourth field. So what we should get is the X number and the computing, X number, ITM, blah, blah, blah. All right? So how do I do it? The first and the fourth field. You guys, what command am I going to use? First and the fourth field. Am I going to use grep, head, tail, cut? What am I going to use? Cut. What am I going to type next? Okay, minus D. Minus D what? D is the delimiter. What's the delimiter? Was it a comma? We're going to, hold on, space. So, space. Does that work? No? Yeah, got to put it in quotes, right? Get used to putting it in quotes. And then someone said minus F, 1, 4. The file name, job done. Okay? Simple as that. Is that the answer to the question? Are we finished? If I did that, would I get all the marks? No. Why won't I get all the marks? I have to put it in a file. The question said put it in a file. How do I put it in a file? Very simple. There. Now I have all the marks. All right? Simple as that. Next question. Create a new file with the first 3 lines and the last 3 lines. And a clue. Oh, by the way, on the night you won't get clues, so you'll have to know which one to use yourself. The first 3 lines and the last 3 lines. Okay, but this is a doddle, isn't it? First 3 lines. What am I going to use? Head. Head minus 3. I have to put them in a file, don't I? Q2. And last 3. What will I use for the last 3? Tail. No, okay. So Zoran, that's interesting. If I go head minus 3 and pipe it through tail minus 3, let's actually try that. What will that give me? What will that give me? So Q21, that text, by the way, has about 40 lines, right? So head minus 3 will give me the 4. Yeah, I'll only have 3 lines, right? Because what it'll do is it'll take the first 3 lines and feed it into tail minus 3, which means I'll get the same 3 lines, all right? So be careful with that. So what we want, we said the first 3 and the last 3. So we go tail minus 3, Q, and that work? Yeah, be careful, right? You need to append it because you want the first 3 and the last 3. And now if we have a look at it, there we go. Happy days, all right? Next one, count the characters, not the lines, in the first 4 lines, WC and head. Okay, how do we do it? Count the characters in the first 4 lines. And it is head minus 4. Yeah, so you have it right, and I presume you're just because you're typing it, you're omitting the fact that you do need to put in the file name, okay? And then we pipe that through WC minus C, okay? Not underscore C, minus C. And 135 is right. I think you can also put in minus M, by the way, and you get the same answer, all right? So WC minus C is characters, WC minus L is number of lines, WC minus W is number of words, and WC on its own gives you all 3. Okay? Right. The next one was count the number of unique lines in the file. The clue is use unique. How do I count the number of unique lines in the file? So WC minus L, the file, gives us 40. There are 40 lines, but there are only a few unique. How do I count the number of unique lines in that file? Okay, unique, Q, and somebody said, oh, try again. What did you forget? What does unique have to happen? Have to sort it first, okay? Be careful. So if I go sort, Q, pipe. Now be careful. If you do that, you must get rid of that. Okay, because otherwise it'll take that instead of the sorted one. So sort it, pipe it, unique it, pipe it, count it. 8 is the answer. Okay? And this is my favorite. This one. So forget said, you don't have to use, sorry, on the night if I asked you something like this and you did it with said, fine, no problem, get the marks if you get it right. However, most of you won't do that. Most of you will rely on head and tail. This is my favorite. Very, you know, I'll be honest with you. That's problem solving, this one, All right, so in other words, you've got to figure out how to use head and tail to solve that particular problem. How do I create a new file with the lines 10 to 15? Take the first 14. Take the first 15. Yeah? Yep, that's exactly it, right? So let me just show you what we're getting at here. So here, imagine this is a file, right? And there are, sorry, we'll start at 1, make it easy. 1, 2, let's say there's 25. There's 25 entries in the file, okay? 1 to 25. We want 10 to 15, okay? The file can be thousands of lines long, or could be 20 lines long, or could be 15 lines long. In order to get those, we need to create a file that has that many. And then, as Iona said, you then take the last lot to get what you want, right? So let's try it. Head minus 15 pipe, no, the file first, sorry, Q, and then I think you said pipe tail minus 5. Okay, is that the right answer? Not sure it's the fifth question. Is that the right answer? Look again. Is it the right answer? Exactly. There's actually 6, right? Now, I'll be honest with you. When I wrote the question a few years ago, I thought it was 5. It was someone pointed out to me that it was 6. So, yeah, it's a bit of a trick one, right? But it's actually 6, right? The lines from 10 to 15 is 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 6 lines. So actually the right answer is this. Okay? Now, here's one for you, seeing as you all got it. I wonder how many people actually would have been able to do that. Very few is usually the answer. So here's another one for you. Tell me the command to put in if I want the third last line of a file, any file. The file could have 3 lines, or it could have 1,000,003 lines. How do I get the third last line? Very good, Jamie. You got it. It's the exact same idea, right? You take the last 3 and you take the first one of those. If it was the second last line, you take the last 2 and you take the first one of those. If it's the 10th last line, you take the last 10 and you take the first one of that. All right? Again, you're just being creative with how you use these. So let's go back. What we got left? Next 2 are said, so I'm not going to actually do them because I'll never ask you it. All right, but again, you should practice them if you want to learn a little bit. That one in particular, how to replace stuff, is very, very handy. Okay. Let me see. Create a new file with every line that does not contain Pierce. Well, we did this earlier, so I'm not going to do it again. Bar, just say it there. It's grep minus V, Pierce, Q, and stick it in a file, Q8. Right? End of there. Whoopie-doo. Okay? You won't find Pierce in that. And I think that leaves us with my friend Tar. Oops, sorry. Yeah. So that leaves us with tar. And it says, create a zipped tar with all your answer files. And then it says, using tar, create a new file containing a list of all the vintage. Okay, so if you did what you're supposed to do, which was to try these yourselves, you probably know there's 3 things essentially you can do with tar. Well, there's 4, okay? You can create a file, list what's in a tar file, create a tar file, list what's in a tar file, extract a tar file, and also you can zip, right? So let's take it one step at a time. Well, first of all, why do we want a tar file? It's essentially used for moving blocks of files, directories around from one machine to the other, or if you want to back up, right? If you want to back up stuff, believe me, tar is used all the time. And there's some really nice features, and I'll show you them now in a second, right? So it's really simple to use tar, and it's the same naming convention as you go through it, right? So let's try it. How many files have we got in this directory at this stage? We have about 10, I don't know. Okay, so if I want to create a backup file, backup tar file of all those files, I go tar, C for create, V for verbose, which is tell me something, F for put it in this tar file name. So I'm going to put it in my files.tar, right? And I'm going to tar everything. I'm going to back up everything into that file. Okay? And the verbose means it told me what it did. And if I now have a look, I see it there? I've got my file.tar and it's got 20k in it, right? How do I know what's in it? Well, I can use the other option, tar T. Don't ask me why it's T, right? I don't know why it's T for listing, no idea. TVF, so the V and the F stay, and you just put in my files.tar. That's it, and it gives you, well, if you put it in right, it gives you what's in it. But have a close look. It tells you more than just what's in it. Do you notice something? It's all the files that are in this backup file have retained all their what's called metadata, right? They've maintained their dates, which was the last time they were messed with, right? Their sizes, who owns them, their permissions, everything. That's why it's really, really handy as a backup tool, because you can back up this stuff and then say you delete it all by accident. You can restore the stuff and the files come back the exact same way as they were, with their permissions, with their everything, right? So their date stamps, everything. So it's really, really nice. So that's tar to create, C to create, T to list, and then the one that's left is, well, actually, I need to restore from my backup. So let's try that. Let's make a directory called temp, and let's go into the directory. And let's pretend I blew away all my files by accident, but I still have my tar file. If I go tar, X for extract, VF is the same again, and my file.tar. Okay, that didn't work because my file.tar is in the directory above. So what do I need to put here for it to be able to find that file? ... Very good. Okay, and it extracted them, and now I have all my files in this directory, which is the temp directory, and I also have them in the directory above, right? But it hasn't extracted them and given them all fresh date stamps. It's extracted them with the date stamps that they have. Look, if I go ls minus lrt in the current directory, and then I go ls minus lrt in the previous directory, they're the exact same sizes, date stamps, everything, right? It's really, really handy, very powerful. So that just leaves us with the zip option. Tar cvf my file .tar, sorry, .tgz, I'll explain that in a minute, star. I'm going to do it again, but this time I'm going to add one more little option. So I'm going to create it again, but I'm going to go add a Z for zip option, right? And the TGZ is just a standard name for a zipped tar file. It means T for tar, GZ for GNU zip, right? That's all it is. So if I do this, I've just created a new one. I'm in the temp directory, by the way. And I have, do you see it there? 1343 was the zipped version. 20480 was the unzipped version. Why the hell would you ever use the unzipped version would be the question. And most people don't. But there is a reason when you would need to use the unzipped version. Does anybody know what it is? Does anybody know what the disadvantage of using the zipped version is? Does anybody ever come across this? So they're tiny. Okay. So the disadvantage is you can't update them, right? So you can't go, I've changed one of the files in there. I need to update it. Yeah, you can't. You have to create a new one and delete the old one. Whereas the tar file, you can actually update the file in the tar file. Okay, so that's one advantage. But is it worth a tenth of the size? Probably not. Okay, so that's tar. So you need to be able to know how to create something, list something, extract something, and you need to know the difference between tar GZ and just a tar file, right? Oh, and other people go, well, why don't you just zip them, right? So let's remove. So do you remember what? Let's move the tgz file to the directory above, and let's redo this with zip. So zip myfile.zip start. I can use zip from the command line as well, right? And it did that. ls-l. There's my zip file. 2898 versus 141343. So sorry, tgz wins over zip. All right, and that's why it's used. Very, very efficient. Squashes things down really nicely, even better than zip. All right, so you may or may not come across it. So. Sorry. I think that covers. That covers what I was going to do with those. Okay, has anybody got any questions about those before we take a short break? Any questions? As I say, in the CA, right, you need to be able to do this type of stuff. You need to be able to do those scheduling type questions. But I'll say it again, the scheduling type questions are the gimmies. These are a little bit harder. Not everybody finds these easy to do, okay? So definitely make sure you can do the scheduling ones. Have a good go at these. And remember, if you type nothing, I have to give you 0. If you type something, you might get something. So in other words, if you can't remember how to exactly work the pipes and the arrows and all that jazz, right? But you do know, oh Jesus, I should be using head and WC here. If you write down head and WC, and it is the commands that should be used, I'll give you something for it. You might only get 25% for the question, but at least you get something. But if you write nothing, which every year I say this and people still write nothing, if you write something, you might get something. If you write nothing, you'll get nothing. Are these lectures downloadable? I'd like to snip this section to look over later. Well, they're videos on YouTube, so I don't care what you do with them, all right? Well, I do care what you do with them, but you can basically see them. It's a video, all right? Okay, so you can watch it to your heart's content. That's the whole point, right? And practice it. Right. Okay. So I tell you what, I'll kill this video and we shall take I'll give you do you want a 10-minute break? Can we use zip file from Linux on Windows? Yeah, zip is zip. Okay, so we'll come back a quarter to roughly. Okay, so I'll take 10 minutes. I'll kill this video and yeah, just after quarter to, and we'll work through. We'll look at that.